I told my husband's mother she wasn't invited to the hospital after the birth. My husband Marcus and I have been married 3 years, and last spring, we started the surrogacy process with a woman named Hannah, a nurse who'd carried a baby for another couple before us. Everyone in the family was thrilled, especially Marcus's mom Diane, who called it her miracle grandchild before we'd even finished the embryo transfer. Diane lives 20 minutes away and inserted herself into everything from the start, which Marcus brushed off as excitement. Early on, it seemed harmless enough. Diane asked for Hannah's number just to check in, and Marcus gave it to her without asking me first. She started texting Hannah nearly every day about symptoms, cravings, and doctor visits, things that weren't really hers to ask about. Hannah mentioned it felt like a lot, but said she didn't want to make things awkward, so she kept answering. Then Hannah's agency called us directly at the start of the 3rd trimester. Diane had shown up unannounced at Hannah's house twice that month, once with a stroller she'd bought without asking, and once just to see how the belly was coming along. Hannah told the coordinator she felt like Diane didn't see her as a person carrying our child, just as someone she was allowed to check in on whenever she wanted. The agency said if it kept happening, they'd document a boundary violation on our file. I called Diane that night and told her she couldn't contact Hannah directly anymore, that anything she wanted to know had to come through me or Marcus first. She said she was just excited to be a grandmother and didn't understand why that was a problem. I explained Hannah wasn't family. She was a woman doing something enormous for us and deserved privacy like any pregnant person would. Diane said I was being controlling and that this was exactly the kind of thing that made her feel shut out of her son's life. Marcus backed me up on the phone, but 2 weeks later Diane showed up at Hannah's 20-week ultrasound uninvited. Hannah's sister was supposed to be the only one there besides us. Diane stood in the waiting room until the tech asked if she was part of the appointment, and Hannah had to say no in front of the doctor's staff. Hannah called me crying afterward, saying she felt humiliated, and asked if we could keep Diane away from anything involving her going forward. That's when Marcus told me something he'd never mentioned before. Diane had done almost the exact same thing to his sister during her first pregnancy 9 years ago, showing up unannounced and telling hospital staff she was the primary grandmother before anyone confirmed visitor lists. His sister still barely speaks to Diane and has kept her own kids at arm's length ever since. Marcus said he'd hoped it would be different this time since it wasn't technically her own daughter carrying the baby. Hannah went into labor 6 weeks later. I called Diane that morning to update her the way we'd promised, and she immediately asked what time to meet us at the hospital. I told her she wasn't invited at all, that this was for Marcus, me, Hannah, and Hannah's sister only, and we'd bring the baby to see her once we were settled at home. She started crying and said I was keeping her from her own grandchild's birth as punishment. I told her this wasn't punishment. It was about a woman who trusted us enough to carry our son deserving to feel safe on the one day that mattered most. Diane didn't speak to us for 3 weeks after we brought our son home. She since started visiting again, but only with Marcus present and only after texting first, which she still complains about every time. Hannah said she's doing an open, distant relationship with our son going forward, and specifically asked that Diane never get her new address. Marcus's sister texted me last week just to say thank you for finally doing what she never had the nerve to do.